In a decision that many hope reinforces the independence of the judiciary, the Supreme Court Collegium has decided to insist on the promotion of Justice K.M. Joseph to the Supreme Court. Now, the decision of the Collegium comes after the Law Minister RS Prasad had rejected Justice Joseph's promotion amidst reports that the centre was trying to get even with the justice who had struck down the imposition of President's rule in Uttarakhand in 2016. Now, Justice Joseph's name will be sent back to the government, but his wait is perhaps not over. The Supreme Court Collegium will meet again to consider the names of other High Court judges who may be promoted and will resubmit Justice Joseph's name along with the others who they believe need to be in the top court. Joining us now to look at this, Manish Tiwari of the Congress, Nalin Kohli of the BJP, Soli Sorabji, the former Attorney General of India, will be with us shortly, and Prashant Bhushan, the senior advocate of the Supreme Court. Manish, let me come to you first. Is it all done now, or do you believe that this delay that we are now seeing, it's not quite through for Justice Joseph, that there is something strange or something mysterious over there?
Well, first and foremost, it's most unfortunate that the government has not reconciled itself to the fact that the Supreme Court had struck down the NJAC, and they have left no stone unturned to exploit the ambiguity with regard to formulating the memorandum of procedure to delay appointments to the constitutional courts. And as a consequence of that, you've got an unprecedented level of vacancies across high courts in the country and even in the apex court. While the government is firmly within its rights to send a recommendation back to the Collegium for reconsideration, but if the Collegium decides to reiterate the recommendation, which seems to be the case in this particular instance, that when they meet again on the 16th of May, Justice Joseph's name would be sent back with the other judges.
Don't disturb me.
It would be in the fitness of things. Propriety would demand that the government should then accept the recommendation of the Collegium unconditionally.
Nalin, as far as the government is concerned and the fact that we've had the Law Minister voice his concerns on the elevation of this justice, is your argument, is that over now? Is it incumbent upon you to listen to what the Collegium now has to say?
No, I think we need to take a step back and understand it in entirety. You need to bear in mind that earlier the government alone used to do the appointments. Then we saw the complete misuse, abuse and the kind of supersessions of the 70s under Mrs. Indira Gandhi of the Congress Party. As an outcome of that, and thereafter the emergency, what you see is that the judicial power or the court judgments came in specifically laying down the creation of the Collegium. It is part of that system which is set up, which is the Collegium. The power is also upon, not the power, but the government has the right to send a name back for reconsideration. And thereafter, if the Collegium returns the same name, it's incumbent on the government to go ahead with that appointment. Now, what I find here is the Congress Party is building a case of hypocrisy. They are the ones who are responsible for this change, for the formation of it, by hanging a sword constantly on the Chief Justice in terms of impeachment, which now the papers say that it's gone, by constantly adding motives to the appointment process. And this is, by the way, the government is in its rights to do so. They are politicizing it, and I think we shouldn't. We must allow the Collegium to do its task. They will act as they are meant to act. The government will also do what it has to do.
No, but Nalin, my question to you was this:
norms and procedures.
As far as Justice Joseph is concerned, is this matter over?
Is going to do something which is not correct.
Is it now incumbent upon the government to say, all right, fine, we've had our objections, we need to put it away, and that he will become a justice of the Supreme Court, his name will be forwarded to the President? Is that going to happen now? Because there are other interpretations as well on what the government may still do.
Because we can't be talking with such a sensitive issue as the appointment of a judge in terms of hypothesis. The Collegium hasn't yet sent that name. The meeting is to take place on the 16th. It appears that there will be more names. Why should we sit out and speculate on something sensitive, and which is part of their right to sit down, deliberate and decide on how many names should go and whatever it is?
No, but this has nothing to do with the other names.
if I may say, hypothesis.
Nalin, this
the
doesn't
message that
necessarily
comes out
have to
today
do
is
with
that
the other
Justice
names, at
Joseph's
least
name
not
will be
yet.
there.
It has
But
to do
appears
with
to
one
be from
name.
what is
And,
that
you know,
communication.
there is a
There may be
press
other
release
names too.
which was
Who will be there?
issued
What will be
today
there?
by the
How is that in
Collegium.
response to the government's communication? Let us wait before we come up with a structured comment.
Mr. Bhushan, would you like to respond to that? The point being made is that, look, let's not assume anything at this stage. And there is a point that that Nalin makes over here, that it's not over. The process is still not over. The name has not been forwarded. The Supreme Court Collegium is going to decide on other names as well. And therefore, the last of this controversy may not be heard. Or do you believe that as far as you're concerned, it's just a matter of time before Justice K.M. Joseph is elevated?
Well, I find it a little strange at two levels. Firstly, if there was consensus among the members of the Collegium that Justice Joseph's name needs to be reiterated, it should have been reiterated today. Merely because some other names also need to be sent for filling up other vacancies, and for that another meeting has to be held on the 11th, on which on other names there may or may not be consensus within the Collegium. That is no reason for holding up the reiteration of Justice Joseph's name. It should have been reiterated today, and from what Mr. Kohli is saying, it is very clear that the government's intentions are far from honourable. Even if Justice Joseph's name is reiterated along with other members or other names for appointment, it seems from Mr. Kohli's statement that the government may treat it as a fresh recommendation and thereafter again sit on it for a long time and then perhaps send it back once more, which would in my view be totally illegal.
Yes.
But that appears to be the government's dishonorable intention.
Nalin, Mr. Bhushan suggests that these are delaying tactics that the government is doing.
May I just come in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, first of all is Mr. Bhushan, as I or anyone else on this show, is entitled to have a point of view. But then Mr. Bhushan is now going into the realm of presumption, of assumption. He first makes a presumption, I'm speaking for the government. I'm not. I'm speaking as he is, an advocate of the Supreme Court. Secondly, Mr. Bhushan must not conveniently forget that there has been a meeting prior to this also, in which the same thing was said in the preceding meeting about Justice Joseph, that they met, they discussed, and other names will be considered. That's the Collegium speaking. That's not the government speaking, a political party speaking. And third, the Collegium in its majesty and the Supreme Court also, they are entitled to decide what they would like to recommend, when they would like to recommend. They are not waiting for his counsel, my counsel, or anybody else's counsel. That, this is how we should go about it. We must allow them in their eminent majesty to go ahead and do it in the manner that they deem fit.
Mr. Surabji, there are some who would refer to Article 124, which says every judge of the Supreme Court shall be appointed by the President by warrant under his hand and seal after consultation with the judges of the Supreme Court and of the of high courts in the states, as the President may deem necessary for the purpose, and shall hold office until he attains the age of 65 years. Now, the role of the President at this stage, do you believe that as far as the elevation of Justice Joseph is concerned, just this recommendation alone ends this controversy, or do you believe that there is the role of the President which still needs to be looked at, and there could be possible disagreements even at that level?
Well, whether there will be possible disagreement or not is a different matter. Today the fact is the Collegium has reiterated, I believe, its recommendation of Justice Joseph, and the government is bound by it, and it should issue the warrant of appointment. There may be other judges that will take the time. I don't want to use adjectives, a dishonorable delay. It will result in delay. Intent or not intent, result in delay. But there's no reason we shouldn't have the benefit of Justice Joseph in the Supreme Court. A judge, by all accounts, an excellent judge. Why should the people be deprived of his services in the Supreme Court? I don't understand.